Y'all, we are gathered here today to talk about living in San Francisco versus San Diego. Okay, a couple disclaimers. I lived in San Francisco for a little over a year, most of it during the pandemic, but I did have a very social experience there still. I moved to San Diego like 5 months ago, so I've only been here for about 5 months, and I do live in Pacific Beach, which is like a neighborhood of San Diego, and I honestly don't traverse far from PB often. So my experiences are mainly like SF, a little pre-pandemic and pandemic, and SD, PB, and a little bit of like downtown and stuff. But I do think, since I have like fully explored to the best of my ability both places, that I am qualified to at least give my opinion on this topic. And so if you are curious about my experiences living in both cities, or if you just need some advice or want some more insight into which city to live in, then you should continue watching. We are just gonna dive right in. We're gonna start with the category people. I think the biggest thing for me that I've noticed is the people difference. I don't know, like, just for me, this has been like a major difference. So in San Francisco, most of the people that I hung out with, at least, or that I saw day to day, were very like tech oriented, driven by like business ideas, their work. I would say more down to earth, definitely more diverse. I would say there's definitely way more Asians and just more diversity in general that I see in SF. When it comes to San Diego, it's definitely more white, especially where I live in Pacific Beach. Very, very white. I mean, take that as you will. There's definitely more of like a college student presence, because especially PB is really close to like USD and UCSD. There's like a lot of college kids that live here. I mean, both cities definitely have like young people, but there's like even younger people, I'd say, in SD. It like skews more towards college students in Pacific Beach versus in SF. I felt like it was more like working age people. In general, SD people definitely more laid back, kind of more, there's a lot of like the surfer, like, yo, what's up vibe going on, whereas SF, it's a lot of like, oh my god, listen to my new tech idea startup that I have. Conversations I had with people in SF were definitely more intellectual. I feel like SD, the people, I just feel like I have more surface level conversations, I think. To me, I think how best to describe it, I just feel like SD has like all the popular kids from your high school and college ended up in SD. Like, if you are nerdy slash like not quote unquote cool, I just don't know if you would fit in here. That's literally the vibe I get. Like, everyone I meet is like not necessarily has their life together, but is just like cool and good socially. It's very interesting, whereas SF definitely has more of like a variety when it comes to the social skills. I just feel like SD is very fratty, very like top tier, sorority, fraternity, at least in PB. Yeah, I really do not meet a lot of people who aren't like cool, you know? In general, people here are more fit. I really don't see a lot of people who are like out of shape. It's so weird. Everyone's like tan, like ready to like chill in their swimsuit at the beach. And I guess both cities have pretty casual dress wear, but here it's like flip-flops, swim trunks, and like no shirt. Whereas SF, it's like hackathon tee, jeans that don't fit right, and like all birds, you know? I do feel like I get more of like a party vibe. From SD, people are more just like, yo, I'm out here living life, I'm trying to have fun. Whereas SF is a little more like I have like a goal or purpose in mind that I'm trying to achieve. You know, I don't know. Maybe that's just like the type of people that I'm hanging out with in both squads. Nothing wrong with either. I'm just laying it out there. In terms of what people do, obviously SF is like the big tech companies, a lot of computer science, Tech is huge there. Here, it's like a little bit of biotech. There's a lot of, I've met a lot of people in like sales, like IT sales, medical sales, and just like random roles. A lot of people who just are here remote because their job allows them to be. Definitely less prestigious jobs, I would say, from what I've experienced here. SD does have, I would say, more famous people though. A lot of bachelor people live here. I'm like friends with freaking Aaron Clancy on The Bachelor now. He's very cool, by the way. I love him. But like, you just meet a lot of famous people here in SD, just out. Like, I probably met like 8 to 10 Bachelor people at this point. A lot of them live here. I did not get that scene in SF at all. So it's a little more clout going on down here. Okay, let's talk about things to do. I'm sure you know this, SD weather cannot be trumped unless you really like wind and a variety of weather. It is constantly 70 to 80 degrees and sunny in SD. It rained here the other day. Everyone was thrown off. Nobody knew what was happening. Nobody knew what to do. In SF, generally more windy, colder. You can't really like be in your swimsuit at the beach unless you want to be really cold. Whereas in SD you can. Surfing scene is way bigger here if you're into like being in the water, being at the beach, playing spike ball, volleyball. All everyone does here, I swear to God, is play spike ball and volleyball. Everyone plays it. If you don't, you're missing out on a big scene here in SD. So if you really like that stuff, SD is for you. SF, I feel like I did more like bike rides there. It's way more bike friendly, more picnics. Both places have a nice park. So there's Balboa Park here, which is comparable to Golden Gate Park in San Francisco. I feel like I liked Golden Gate Park better. I don't know why. I thought it was prettier. I thought there was more like sections to it. Although Balboa Park does have a lot of museums within the park. If you're into that, there's like an art museum, just a lot of random museums in there. But for some reason, I thought Golden Gate Park was like prettier. And I definitely picnicked there more and I went there more often. Sunsets in SD are absolutely beautiful. There's a lot of spots to watch the sunset. I think I definitely do that here more often than I did in SF, just because it got really cold at night in SF. In terms of weekend trips, I think pretty comparable. With SF, you have like Lake Tahoe, you have Monterey, Big Sur, the Redwood Forests. In SD, you can go to LA, there's like Big Bear. You go down to Mexico, because we're actually really close to Mexico, and like Tijuana and all that stuff. So there's like a good amount of stuff to do and equal. SD probably has better hikes. SF does have good hikes as well, but I think SD has more options probably. People like to say that SF has like a better music slash cultural scene, but in terms of like festivals, I'd say there's a lot of festivals going on in SD as well. We just had one yesterday, the Crossed Festival. SF has, of course, a lot of festivals as well, so you can get that either place. Let's talk about safety. I definitely feel way safer in SD than I did in SF. Granted, I did live in SOMA in SF, which has a lot of homeless people. Like, I would not want to be walking by myself at night in SF where I lived. But here, probably because I live in PB, there's maybe like 2 homeless people that I see around PB, and it's like very just like out of the ordinary. Like, it's mostly families and young people here. I really like feel like I'm in like a safe neighborhood where I live. It's more of like a neighborhood vibe, first of all, versus like in SF it's more like a city vibe, because I was more like downtown. Here I'm in like more neighborhood. There are parts of downtown SD, such as like East Village and Gaslamp, that remind me more of SOMA and Tenderloin of SF, where you'll see more tents and like homeless people and feel a little less safe. But I live far away from that, so frankly I could be walking around at 2 a.m. where I live. I feel completely safe. I've never felt like I need to be scared for my life, and I like that a lot better. Let's talk about nightlife. It just seems to me that people in SD are less COVID conscious in general. Right, the first time I got here, I was like shook. These clubs and bars packed shoulder to shoulder, so crowded, nobody wearing masks. In SF, I felt like it was a little more strict, but I think now it's like opened up a bit. So I will say, I think SF has more options, more diverse options if you're looking for like different vibes. At least in PB, all the clubs are kind of similar, like very fratty, very young. You'll see a lot of college kids, very basic, very white, you know, just bros being bros, beers on beers, throwback music. I mean, we do have like the gay bars in Hillcrest, and there's also a lot of gay bars in SF. There's like Asian bars in SF, just like more like random out of the blue options. Although I feel like, at least in PB, it's like a whole strip where you could just like bounce and they're all like next to each other. Whereas in SF, I feel like I have to like, either it's like you have to like walk more to get to each of them. They're not as like clustered, but I guess that just depends on the neighborhood. Both cities close around like 2 to 3 a.m. in terms of the bars. Well, at least here, everything closes at like 2 a.m. In SF, I think so too, but there might be a couple that are like 5 a.m. I mean, both are fun. I would just say SD definitely more fratty. And again, especially if you go to Mavericks in SD, bachelor galore. It's where all our bachelor peeps like to go out. So, you know, if you like celebrity spotting, could be for you. Okay, let's talk about food. Mexican food, so big in SD. Tacos everywhere, tacos galore. Everyone's always like, you want to get tacos. Everyone's first date is always tacos. Like, it's just like so big here. Like, and like honestly, I don't know what, like I think I ate too much Mexican food at some point because I'm kind of sick of it and I just am not a big taco fan. So that kind of sucks for me. SF definitely had better like diversity when it came to food. There's like better Asian food, better dim sum, but we do have Convoy Street here in SD, which is like this whole area that has a lot of good Asian food. So I have had good Asian food in both places. I think both places have good sushi. In SD, we do have Little Italy, which has really good Italian food. There's also just in general like a lot of good American food in SD. I feel like SF probably has more diverse options, but if you look carefully in SD, you'll also find those options. That's what I have to say. I'm like not picky, so I've had a good time in both places. I will just say tacos and Mexican food is just so dominating in San Diego. Also, we do have the California burrito down here, which is like the burrito that has fries in it that I did not experience ever in San Francisco. So if you ever come here, you definitely have to try that. It's really good. Transportation. Transportation is really interesting. In San Diego, everyone has a car. I swear to God, most people have a car. It is way more drivable than San Francisco. I actually don't have a car. And like I could survive, especially in Pacific Beach. It's pretty walkable. I could get my groceries. It's like less than a mile away. The beach is about a mile away. All my friends are like pretty close, walkable. But it is definitely nice to have a car to like get downtown, to get places that are a little bit further, to get to friends who live in a different neighborhood, to go to like hikes that are a little further away. I would say 99% of the people I know, actually I'm the only one I know in San Diego that doesn't have a car. In San Francisco, I only knew like a handful of people who did have cars because all their cars would always get broken into. So it actually wasn't a good idea to have a car in San Francisco because parking also sucks and is really expensive, and you just didn't really need a car. Like everything was super walkable. Bike lanes, biking was just way bigger in San Francisco. I biked like every week in San Francisco, and I have yet to bike in San Diego, and I have a bike. I just like, there's not as many bike trails. Like I don't feel as safe on the roads here on a bike. Birding is huge here. Everyone birds everywhere. Bird is like the electrical scooters, birds, limes on every corner. That's how everyone gets everywhere. That's how my friends and I get out to the clubs at night. That's how I get to my friend's house. That's how I get to the beach. Everyone here birds. I remember when I first got here, I saw a couple people like birding and I was like, whoa, they're so cool. Like, what is this? And now I just do it every day. They also do exist in SF, but I just don't think they're as big. Nobody really uses them as much. And in general, the public transit is definitely better in SF. Like there are buses here, I think, maybe. I don't even really know what's going on with the public transit here. Actually, yes, there are buses because my friend Andrew took it, but I have not really traversed into that situation. Okay, and then like a kind of random category that I wanted to touch on was shopping, because this was something I noticed when I moved to SD. There's like not as many places to buy clothes. Like in SF, I lived really close to a Westfield mall that had like Zara and everything. The thrifting, I will say, I think the thrifting was a lot better in SF. I loved my thrift stores there. They were so good. There are thrift stores here, but it's just like more basic, not as good finds. I think SF definitely had way better thrifting. There are also malls here, but I guess they're just a little far away from me. Like in PP specifically, there's not a lot of shopping going on. Like there's a couple of thrift stores. There's a lot of beach stores. Like if you like the shirts that say like San Diego, if you want to get like a bucket hat, there's like a lot of souvenir beach shops, which you don't get in SF. But it's like harder to shop here, is what I've noticed. All right, those are all the categories I'm gonna touch on. I think both places are great places to live. Both are like relatively expensive, SF more so, but it just really depends on what you're looking for. Biggest thing, do you want that chill surfer fratty vibe, or do you want the more intellectual driven kind of nerdier vibe? At least that was my experience. You know, I'm very adaptable. I thrive in either environment. I don't know if that's a good thing, but I like very much so mold myself to fit whatever environment I'm in. So like I'm fine with either. It just has been interesting with the differences that I've noticed and like the type of people that I've been hanging out with and the types of activities that I do. Very much changed when I moved here. And if you have any more questions, feel free to comment. Other people can also give their input, or I can also respond as well. And I hope this video was helpful. Of course, I have a lot more time to explore San Diego, get a better holistic view of it as well. But this has been my experience thus far. Thank you for watching this video, and I will talk to you guys in the next one.